Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I'm your host. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have a special guest. Before any show, you can always email me, Zach at Zach Ballinger. We will make sure to ask those questions if you have any on your career or your whatever it might be, whatever career development topic that suits you. Also, we are streaming live via YouTube. So if you have any questions, pop them into the comment box. We'll make sure to get to them. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your background and what are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I call myself a career coach for analytically minded people. And the reason I say that is because many career coaches come from a background of hiring, recruiting, HR, whereas I actually have an engineering degree, which is pretty unusual in this space. So I am actually on my third career transition so far. Started in engineering, then went into technical support, now running my own business as a career coach. And it's all about helping people make career choices that they know are going to be right for them. And we do it in a very practical and structured way, kind of from that engineering mindset.
I love the niche because we do have a lot of people in the audience that are more analytical or they're from a math background, or you probably know the common things that engineers or anybody from an analytical field struggle in when it comes to career development and all things on the umbrella of career coaching. So I think it's a really great perspective to have. Career coaches come from all different walks of life, but I found that engineers tend to be the best with resumes too. Have you had that feedback as well?
I specifically do less resumes, but I think there is a very, structured way to think about it. And sometimes that analytical mindset is like, yeah, how do I need to think about this? What are the inputs that I need? So yeah, I could see that being the case.
So before we jump into some of these questions here, I just wanted to ask, what made you decide to go into career coaching? You went into education, obviously, for an engineer, but what made you transition to this step?
Yeah, I've always loved engineering and I've always loved the people side of engineering. So I think my first transition to technical support felt like a little bit of that balance of engineering plus getting to talk to the humans all day, every day. And then while I was working in that role, I was doing a lot of onboarding and training with our team, and people were so stressed about their work. And they were like, I don't know how to talk to my manager. I don't know how to think about my career progression. What if I get stuck on this technical support team for the end of time? And so I kind of, followed what was interesting to me, having these career conversations on the side. It wasn't part of my, real job. And then I started testing it more and more and did it a little bit outside of work as well. And just found that I absolutely loved helping people feel less stress about their career and more in control of it and more clear about what actually worked for them in the workplace. So I kind of fell into it, but following along with the things that were interesting to me, the things that I felt that I was good at. So that's really how I ended up here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. So the first question that comes in, a student writes in, they're having a trouble finding an engineer internship. They're a junior in college right now with an engineering background. They're wanting to try to find either a paid internship, preferably, or it can be non-paid, but preferably paid. I'm sure everybody's like that too. Any suggestions for this student on how to break in for an internship?
Yeah, I would hope that there are a lot of resources through the school that you went to. I think that's always a first place to look of, are there career coaches or are there kind of placement specialists within the school? And then I think it's always about conversations. The more people that you can talk to, that you can get connected with, that you can share what you are looking to create with this internship, the better. And then I think, I don't know what kind of realm of engineering you're in, but one of the interesting parts about engineering is that it's a good jumping off place for a lot of different things. So for me, I studied bioengineering, but I actually did an internship in electrical engineering because I wanted to test out that to see, do I enjoy more of that side? So maybe kind of looking broadly as to the different kinds of engineering internships that there might be, you might be able to learn a lot about the different areas. But I think conversations, talking to as many people as possible, and really sharing what you're looking to create is one of the best ways to break into that.
Yeah, I like your advice. I sound like a broken record, or nowadays it's a broken MP3 player. Is get plugged into these career services or career centers on your college
Yeah.
campuses. Most of the internships that full time employers go to, they're going to go to that building and they're going to say, hey, we want these students for this internship. So that's your first place to start. And like you said, when you're talking to people, you're networking. And even if you don't get the internship, I've seen students react in a negative manner if they haven't, won the job or won the job interview or the internship. I've done it in the past. I talk a lot about it openly. We get emotional. We sometimes don't see the future, but
Yeah.
a lot of times, if we finished, let's say you were the second choice, and that candidate, the first choice, falls out for some reason. Maybe they get another internship. Maybe something else happens. Maybe they go full time. Well, if you've showed your rear, then you're probably not going to get a call back. But if you maintain that relationship and kind of see the long term vision of it, that's a connection you just made by that interview, then it can end up in a positive light. Do you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about, sometimes we feel like winning the interview is getting the job. One of my colleagues, Suzanne O'Brien, fantastic career coach, she said something that blew my mind. She said, you win the job interview when you show up as yourself. And if you can speak about what's important to you, what you're looking for, if you do a great job of showing up as who you are and connecting with that person, that's what she says is winning the interview. And so then we get kind of detached from the, oh my gosh, I have to get the job out of this, otherwise I've failed. So I just love that way of thinking about it. If you get to be yourself in the interview, that means you've won. That means you've planted a seed that you have no idea what might happen in the future, as you say, if that job opens up again, or if they have something in the future.
Yeah, I love that quote because it is 100% true. And if you guys think about this, who do hiring managers network with? Other hiring
Other.
managers.
Mhm.
So if you think about that for a second and you're out there and you show a good impression to that person, maybe they don't have something right then, but they may say, hey, Suzanne, this great guy interviewed from the university today. He was great. I just don't have any more open positions. Or you make that connection and you'd be surprised with other people that they're connected with, even on LinkedIn, that might be a great, you may discover a job that way. So let's not close the door on everything and keep things in perspective. I know it's disappointing when we don't get jobs that we were actually excited about. But Lindsay, what I found in my career is that a lot of times I look back on the jobs that I didn't get and I say, well, probably 99% of the time, I'm like, thank God I didn't get that job.
You're like, phew, that
Yeah.
wasn't the right fit.
So
Yep.
everything works out for its own purpose and reason for sure. The next question comes in. It says, I'm having a trouble with this networking thing. I have a LinkedIn account, but it doesn't seem like I know what I'm doing on there. Any suggestions on networking? I am a millennial out in the workplace.
Yeah. I think there's a weird connotation with the word networking sometimes where it's like, oh my gosh, maybe I have to be extroverted. I'm trying to sell myself. I think it kind of like strikes fear into the hearts of so many people to even just think about the word networking. So I think if you can choose a different word that gets you in a mood of connection, of collaboration, of I get to hear other people's stories. I get to share about what I'm looking to create in the world. And if you can have that be kind of the motivation behind it, that might allow you to take different actions. I've also heard the advice that, If you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. So it's much more about, can you get curious about people who are in your sphere and ask, like, I would love to hear what you're up to. What does your job look like? Kind of like all the conversations that you have. It's so interesting to hear people's stories, to get to share stories. So that's how I would have you kind of reframe networking, so it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I need to, give my business card, though that maybe we don't do that anymore, but whatever the version of networking is that seems a little scary, see if you can think about it as connection, collaboration, getting to tell stories and learn about interesting people that you want to get to know.
I like it. Great advice. And, guys, just because you have a LinkedIn profile doesn't make that networking. LinkedIn is a tool, a device to network. So just because you have a page and a nice picture doesn't mean that it just starts going off and you start adding connections and you start building relationships. It's not how it works. I think a lot of times networking is activity, it's emotional intelligence, knowing when to reach out again. And you learn that as you go. And like you said, Lindsay, if people are passionate about their jobs and they reach out to somebody, they don't mind to share that. It's exciting to them. Now there's a difference in how you ask it. If you're emailing somebody and you're like, can you get me a job? They have no idea who you are. Why would they vouch for you? So it's a lot more of connecting, learning about them, let them learn about you as well, and just try to establish a consistent contact with people. One of the things I do, it's a pain on LinkedIn, but I do it and I don't regret it, is I say happy birthday and happy anniversary to every single one of my connections. And although it's a lot of work, it's allowed me to stay in touch with over 3,500 people and maintain it on a consistent basis. So that's what I would add about that. Anything else on LinkedIn or networking?
Anything else on LinkedIn? I think what I have really enjoyed about LinkedIn is also this idea of sharing. I think if even at any stage of your career that you're at, if you are learning interesting things, if you are having interesting experiences, people also love stories on LinkedIn. So if you're, in your first internship and you are sharing your reflections on what it's like to be in that first internship, what you're learning, what surprised you most, that actually, the sharing of stories, if you're posting about that, that's another great way to get people engaged and to get people chatting with you. And then you can kind of take the conversation from there and maybe meet with them individually. But I think just this idea of sharing and the focus on stories can be so helpful. And I do a lot of that on LinkedIn and find that it really helps me connect with people. So maybe that's the other kind of side of LinkedIn that I would think about.
I agree with you. It's all about an algorithm, and the more you post and the more you share, obviously good quality content, spell check, grammar check, all that good stuff. But if you're interacting with pages, guys, keep in mind a lot of the people on the other end can see what you like. So, I've had people you didn't realize that, and so they were liking a lot of things that might not trigger professional results. So keep in mind, everything you do on LinkedIn is tracked and people can see it. But it's good because it's an algorithm that pops up, and the more you use it, the more people see you, the more people are exposed to you. Like you said, if you share, then that can potentially even draw more. And you want to make sure to answer people that, let's say you do share a post and somebody says, wow, this is a great job, thank you for the story. Make sure to reply right into those comments, because what happens is it again pushes your name out there among your network as you comment back and forth. So don't ignore those comments. That's really important too. So the next question comes in. It says, which type of engineering should I do? How do I discover which pathway? There's a lot of different engineers. Right now I'm plugged into civil engineering, but I'm not sure that's where I want to stay. How do I know about the other different types of engineering fields out there?
Yeah, there are a lot of different kinds of engineers, which is pretty awesome. I think there's always some amount of research that you can do. of looking at what is a civil engineer versus what is a mechanical engineer versus what is a bioengineer. So that's one way to do it. I think experimenting as much as possible is another way to do it. So I went to a school where I got a general engineering degree and I was able to test out a bunch of different things. So I did some electrical engineering, I did some mechanical engineering. I ended up getting a concentration in bioengineering. But if there's an opportunity for you to test out a little bit the different courses, if you happen to be in school, that could be a different way. I think doing different internships was one thing I did. So as I said, I did that one electrical engineering internship, even though, I didn't think that I wanted to be an electrical engineer long term. You could talk to people who are in those roles. I think that could be another way to learn more about it. And then also, I think overall, I would kind of reassure you that you don't have to choose exactly the right place in engineering. It's not that if you get your degree in one place, you are never going to be able to move around into different areas of engineering. I think engineering teaches you a way to think, a way to approach problems. And so if you find that you do mechanical engineering for a little bit of time and then you want to shift around and do something else, I think that's going to be easier than you think. So don't worry about getting it right, right out of the bat. Give yourself the grace to explore, to try things out, to know that any kind of engineering is going to be such a good jumping off point. I went to a school that only has engineering graduates, and yet, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have, all kinds of people who have come out of this engineering degree because it is such a great jumping off point and a great way to think. So don't worry too much about getting it right and try to do as much experimentation, talking to people as possible.
Great advice. I agree with all that. And, not even plugging this, but the thing I have on the career library, guys, if you're interested in different types of engineering, I have it on the career library. So you can connect with people. And a lot of the times these people give you their contacts on LinkedIn. So these are perfect people for you to connect with on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'd love to pick your brain about it. I saw you on the show. And those people are more than willing to give you kind of a perspective on that particular engineering field. So I'd encourage you to do that as well. But great advice. Last question we have, and I love this question. I think you're going to love it too. It says, how do I answer the tell me about yourself when they ask that to me in the interview?
Yes, such a good question. It always comes up. There's a resource that I love to share with people on this topic. I think it's an article in the Muse, but maybe I can find it and kind of share it with your audience afterwards. I really like how they do it in a kind of 3-part sequence of you do a very quick, here's where I've come from, then here's where I am today, and then here's where I'm going, and kind of pull together the threads of, any jobs that you've had previously, what you're doing today, and then where you're looking to go. So it's just like a very structured, simple, 1 or 2 sentence about this one, 1 or 2 sentences about this one, 1 or 2 sentences about this one. And I think one of the most important pieces in this is telling the story. For me, I have a background that maybe looks non-traditional, going from engineering to technical support to running my own business as a career coach, but I can tell a very compelling and empowering story that it has always been about solving problems and talking to people. And that was true in engineering. And that was true in technical support. And it looks a little different in career coaching, but it's still the same thing. Problem solving plus talking to people. So I think those 2 pieces. So have that kind of 3-part series, and then also make sure that you are telling that compelling story that threads across where you've been, where you are, where you're going.
And guys, it's not just as simple of you rehashing your resume where you say, well, I've worked here this many years. This is what my function is. This is what I've done. Like Lindsay's saying, it's a story. It's an elevator pitch really designed to be about 2 minutes to where you can convey a compelling story or message about yourself, why you would want to work for that company, where you've been, and how you're going to get there. I like how you piece that together with 3 different parts. Guys, I'll tell you this, most hiring managers make their decisions pretty quick when you sit down in front of them. This question is going to be pivotal for you to move forward in the job interview process. And I don't mean that to scare you, but what it is it's motivation for you guys to practice this. So if you guys practice this, you ace your pitch, if you will, your elevator pitch, you come in and you tell a compelling story, like you said, why they should hire you, what's your background, where you're going, what your strengths are, a little bit of it ingrained. And I've seen interviews go really, really well when somebody has this down, and I've seen them go the opposite when it's really, really bad. And so you should anticipate this question. And if you're not sure of your answer, work with somebody, work with a professional, practice it, video record it. I know it's awkward, but if you can master it on a video, and as awkward as it is, and you show it to somebody and say, hey, what do you think of the tell me about yourself question, you'd be surprised at how well your interview is going to go from there.
Yeah.
So, Lindsay, where can people find you? So, you have an interesting background. Like I said, I think it's going to be very helpful for some members of my audience. You have your own career coaching business. Let's say somebody's out there and they're like, I'm frustrated. I need some more help other than just the show. I need some one-on-one coaching. Where can they go and find you?
Yes. So my website is alifeofoptions.com. And then also, I would love to connect on LinkedIn. As I said, I share a lot of client stories, a lot of things that you can be thinking about for how to be really clear about what works for you in your job. So absolutely connect with me on LinkedIn. And yes, happy to answer any questions about my journey so far, the transitions that I've been in, anything related to career coaching. I love connecting. So please do reach out. I'm very happy to chat with anyone.
And guys, you're always looking for somebody else to connect with on LinkedIn. There you go. Lindsay just invited you to connect. So make sure that you follow her. One more time for that website in case our audio listeners are out there. One more time.
Yes, www.alifeofoptions.com.
Well, Lindsay, this has been so helpful. We appreciate you giving back your time, offering some great career advice for people out there that are continually searching and under career development. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right, guys. Until next time, this is the Zach Ballinger Show.